The following is an AZPM original production.
For AZPM, I'm Mark McLemore, and this is Arizona Spotlight. Coming up, we'll introduce you to three of Tucson's brightest lights. From architect Paula Holmes, who's celebrating her 100th birthday, to Lilliona from the class of 2024, who had to learn to grow up a little too fast in the age of social media, to musical artist Gabrielle Pietrangelo, who has a new album release. Those stories are all next on Arizona Spotlight. There are 8 billion people on the planet, but only 0.01% reach the milestone age of 100. That's less than 1 million people. But this month, a new centenarian will join the ranks as Tucson architect Paula Holmes celebrates her 100th birthday. AZPM contributing producer Laura Markowitz sat down to hear about Paula Holmes and her remarkable life, from the jazz age to the digital age and beyond.
Imagine what life was like a century ago. The roaring 20s with jazz, flappers, prohibition, Charlie Chaplin, the Scopes monkey trial. Women had only recently won the right to vote. So if you were born a middle-class white girl in Ohio, you were expected to grow up to be a wife and a mother.
I was never called a tomboy, but I surely was. I did not like dolls, and I did not play with dolls, and I didn't want Santa Claus to bring me a doll, and my mother was just stressed out.
Paula Francine Schatzman was born in Cleveland in 1925.
I did everything the boys did, and I played football in the streets, and I could kick the football over the utility lines before the guys could. But they didn't mind. They just laughed at me. I thought I could do anything a guy could do because I had an older brother and I did everything he did. So I thought I was set.
During the Great Depression, her father lost his job as a production engineer. So they moved to the family farm in southern Ohio.
The best years of my life were the Depression years. I learned about butchering and how to wring a chicken's neck and how to can, and I just learned so much during the Depression that I've used my whole life. I mean, I've canned my whole life. If I, see something that's a bargain and it's, a peck of tomatoes for 10 cents, I buy them and can them. And of course, on the farm, we had to grow everything, and we had a wonderful garden, and I learned how to grow things, and everywhere I've lived, I've had a garden. The barns we played in were all tobacco barns, and I loved the smell of tobacco, and I thought, this has to be good. And of course, the tobacco raisers would roll their cigars out in the field and smoke them, and they smelled so wonderful. So I tried one, and of course I got sick as a dog. So that ended my smoking career. I never smoked. Didn't taste like chocolate.
Paula was active in Girl Scouts. She was the class president, and she loved to build things in the wood shop.
When I went to high school, they had to have classes that would teach the boys something they would need for the military because they knew they would all be going to the military. So I took aeronautical engineering drafting.
When she was 16, the United States entered World War II. She graduated from high school in 1943.
And I wanted to do something for the war effort. This experimental institute needed a draftsman to do all their government research on weapons and military equipment and so forth. And so I got a job drawing up rockets and all the detail of that. And Battelle Memorial Institute, and everybody there was an engineer. So I worked at that job until the war was over, and then I applied to Purdue.
She was the only woman in her engineering class.
And the men resented me. So it was very difficult because I felt I had to be first in the class to show them up. And so I was very stressed out.
When it came time for the civil engineering students to go to their summer training camp, Paula was told that there were no facilities for women.
And I said, well, what are you going to do with me? And they said, we'll just have you live with the faculty family. And I thought, well, that's not going to be any fun. Is my career going to be, always put someplace else because I'm the only woman? So I decided that instead of civil engineering, I'd go into architecture and do a more beautiful, easy part of the field. It's half engineering and half art, so you have to be skilled in both.
She transferred to Ohio State, and she worked summers as a draftsman for a local architecture firm in Columbus. She says the architects there encouraged her and taught her how to supervise on construction sites.
I needed to know that side of it, too, because I needed to know how to talk to contractors when they'd made a mistake or had to change something, which, of course, they didn't like, especially coming from a woman.
Before she even graduated, Paula had a job offer from the firm. So she bought a Plymouth hatchback and took a month off to drive across the country with a friend. It was 1949.
And we visited every single national park. We would camp and we would hike the trails, and it was just a fabulous experience.
For the next few years, she worked as an architect and lived with her parents. Paula says her mother assumed she'd be an old maid.
Because I wasn't interested in men. I had had enough of men after studying with them for, 7 years, and then all they had in the office were, 6 more men.
But at age 28, she agreed to go on a blind date with a medical student named Donald Holmes.
He was a very, very unique man. When he was a teenager, his goal was to learn a new word every day. So he had the most beautiful language. It was just like poetry. And then he was busy in medical school and I was busy in architecture, and he wrote me maybe 4 words every single day in a little envelope and mailed them to me. And they were 4 precious words, and it just enamored me, and I just couldn't believe this man with this beautiful language. So I fell in love with him. I was surprised, but I did. I fell in love with him head over heels. He was just fabulous. And of course, he could figure me out because he was a psychiatrist, so he knew all about me, and he knew what he had to put up with. I didn't want to give up my profession.
They had 2 sons, Rob and Todd.
I was always so grateful that I had sons because they liked to play the same way I liked to play. Rocking horses and rocking dinosaurs, and every toy they had I made. Their little table where they crayoned and colored, and little chairs I made for them were made so they could build trains out of them.
Paula and Don had to figure out how to make it possible for her to continue practicing architecture while raising 2 young children. They didn't have role models for this. She had an office at home, and she was designing residences for families.
When my husband came home at 7, he'd take over, and I'd go to my office, and I'd work on the drawing board until 4 in the morning. And, of course, the clients liked that because I could see them at night when the husbands were there. The husbands were paying the bill, and it was nice that they were in on, the design and the cost and all that sort of thing. So it worked out very well for me. And my husband would take the boys Friday night, pack them in the car and take off, and he'd take them for rides and adventures on the weekends while I had full time in my study doing drawings.
Paula won awards for her lighting and residence designs, and she was accepted into the prestigious American Institute of Architects. In 1970, the Holmes family moved to Carefree and then to Tucson.
We never ate dinner at the dining room table. We ate the dinner in the desert to see some beautiful area that the boys had found. And then we'd name these canyons. And then we'd have birthday parties out there. And the birthday parties were always filet mignon with my 6-candle sterling silver candelabras out in the desert in the sand.
Don passed away in 1999. He was 74.
That's been very sad years ever since that, because we worked hard and we played hard, and we had a wonderful life together.
Paula kept going.
I worked until I was 85, and at 85 I was doing a big job for a contractor here, and I had to go down to the building department to get a permit. So I opened the door and there was no one in there, and usually there's a big long line and you have to sign up and wait. Here's a big sign that says, "We're digital only." And I wasn't born the right generation for digital. And so I said, well, I guess that ends my career. And I was very sad about that.
She continued to do small renovation designs for friends.
But I had to give that up when I was in my 90s.
Arthritis made it impossible for her to hold a pencil.
And I miss all my tools even today, but you can look in every drawer full of tools. My walker's full of tools because I can't open anything. So I've got pliers and steak knives and you name it in my walker so I can get into things. Packaging is my nemesis. Older age is more difficult. Everything is more difficult. You slow down. You become a procrastinator. You like to sit more, which is a no-no. And when you've been as active as I have, it's pretty upsetting when you have to have somebody come and open the door for you, or open a can of tuna.
She will celebrate her 100th birthday on March 24th. Everyone asks her what's her secret to living a happy life. And she says, enjoy people, have as much fun as possible, and do what you love, because you may end up doing it for a long time. Happy birthday, Paula Holmes. For Arizona Spotlight, this is Laura Markowitz.
Tucson Medical Center for Seniors and the Pima Council on Aging will hold the Salute to Centenarians to honor and celebrate these elders in our community on Tuesday, March 18th. For more information, you can visit pcoa.org. Now, another chapter of a special project called the Class of 2024. The students that graduated from Tucson High Magnet School last fall were unique in many ways. They were a generation who had grown up in the public school system with active shooter drills since kindergarten. They began their high school careers in 2020 under the shadow of the global COVID-19 pandemic. Art Almquist, the drama teacher at Tucson High for 28 years, made the decision to retire last year, leaving behind a thriving drama department and a theater that is now named after him. After an important group conversation, Mr. Almquist suggested to a group of his most dedicated students that they try their hand at composing essays that portrayed different aspects of their high school experience and why it was so different, with COVID, social media, and the shadow of a potential school shooting. In response were 8 essays that challenged commonly held perceptions of what their generation is like. Next, we learn how the presence of social media in most teenagers' lives has required that they do grow up faster than previous generations. Although nothing graphic is shared in this short essay, the content may weigh heavy on sensitive listeners.
Hi, I'm Lilliona from the class of 2024, and this is my story. I knew it was wrong. I should be doing schoolwork, but I can't. I mean, all I do every day is just school from home. I can't focus, I can't concentrate, and I don't have any motivation to do anything. What was I doing? Well, I had made some new friends. Do I know what they look like? No, but we met online through a famous streaming platform, and I mean, even though they're older than me, it's fine. We have fun and we talk, and one of my best friends is 20, and I'm 14, but it's not weird. It was the middle of the night, around 1:30 a.m., and I couldn't sleep at all, which was normal due to everything going on. I mean, I was supposed to be in my first year of high school, but instead I'm at home doing online classes which aren't teaching me anything. But I was texting my friend, and it was nothing out of the normal, but then it took a turn. Out of the blue, he texts me, "I'm in the mood." And my heart drops to my stomach. I mean, what do I even say to him? I pause before texting him. "Well, take care of it. I'll be here when you're done." He didn't say anything for a minute or two. Then he texted me, "Can I have a picture of you?" I honestly didn't think too much of it. I mean, we send photos all the time. And it was nothing out of the ordinary. Only a selfie. Nothing more. It wasn't out of the normal for us to send a photo of each other. Usually they were pet photos or memes. He texted me, "You know what I'm going to do with this, right?" It clicked. I unsent the photo and texted him I was uncomfortable, and I didn't text him for the rest of the night. There I was, laying down on my bed, feeling so gross. Tears in my eyes and my heart beating out of my chest. And I trusted him, which was the sad part. He was one of my best friends, and he took me for granted. I didn't even know what to say or do. I didn't speak about this event to anyone. I mean, how could I? The next morning I texted him we shouldn't be friends anymore, and then I blocked him. He was 20, and I was 14. And that night, I felt my innocence and a part of me change, and my eyes were wide open.
To hear more heartfelt, hopeful, and sometimes harrowing essays, check out the Class of 2024 page at azpm.org. One of our region's most gifted singer-songwriters, Gabrielle Pietrangelo, is known for her light touch with the ballad and exquisite harmonies, also for collaborating with many established and emerging local artists. But she says her newest album, Back to the Heart, which began to take shape in the early days of the pandemic, announces her arrival as a fully formed solo artist. We'll hear more next in a conversation, but I started with asking, did she know that this would be a journey of more than 4 years when she began?
I knew there was an album percolating, and I guess I assumed it would be a lot faster. A large majority of songs that were inspired by the Southwest region and up into New Mexico, different places I go regularly, all kind of came around the same time during COVID. And then there were a few songs that I wrote before.
People who are familiar with your music know that you have a very wide range with your voice. You can do a lot, and you can harmonize with yourself in a lot of interesting ways. So tell me, on this album, what roles did you find yourself in, besides being the singer-songwriter?
Well, I was the arranger, I would say, and actually I had mixers do the final mix, but I was a part of the mixing process. So I played all the guitar parts. I played a lot of the piano, some of the organ, all the vocals. I didn't have any guest vocalists on this album, so everything you hear is my vocal arrangements. I produced most of it, and then I co-produced a couple tracks with some of the engineers I worked with.
And what about finding local talent? You know so many people in the Tucson music scene.
What would happen is I'd be like, this needs a pedal steel, or this needs strings, and then the person that I wanted would come to mind, and then I was just lucky enough to get the people that I asked, Nicholas Coventry played 3-part strings on 3 of the tracks. It turned out so cool. And Paul Niehaus, who I met through Calexico years ago, who lives in Nashville now. Yeah, and then I asked John and Jacob from Calexico, because I thought Tucson, a Tucson love song anthem, could use some Calexico vibes, And I was just lucky. John actually did literally bow the vibes on that track and played the percussion on that.
Well, it sounds like a lot of things came together for you easily, but what was one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in the last 4 years?
Probably knowing when to call pins down, as writers say, it's done. There was even a track that was written I think it was 3 months ago. That was the final song that sort of was like, okay, it's done. This song made it all make sense. I'm going to take this one off, put this one on. And that was my pins down moment. You'll never be done if you just keep changing stuff. So it's hard to know what's right for the artist's voice and what's just over perfectionism or not being too scared to finish. That's a big one.
So the long-awaited release has now happened. People can get a copy of Back to the Heart. Tell them where to find it.
Well, you can find it anywhere you stream music, any platform. I'd love for you to visit my YouTube channel or my website. And you can find that just by Googling Gabrielle Tucson Music, and my website will pop right up. But look for Back to the Heart, and it's streaming everywhere. I'd love for you to hear the whole thing. A lot of it's a love song to this region. So
there are those of us who really like physical media.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for mentioning that. I made vinyl for the first time in my life. I have CDs, vinyl, Summer Loser trucker hats, stickers. You can find them all at my merch store at GabriellePietrangelo.com.
Now, the record release party has already happened by the time people will hear this interview. But what's next? Where can they come to see you play?
I'm a songwriter finalist at the Tucson 40th Annual Tucson Folk Festival, the first weekend of April. I'm also playing on Sunday afternoon, 4:30, and the songwriting contest performance is Friday evening of the Folk Fest, first weekend of April. Looking forward to that. Always love the Tucson Folk Festival.
Well, tell us about the song that we're going to hear, the title track to Back to the Heart.
Oh, this song is so dear to my heart, literally. It kind of encapsulates the whole theme of the album, and I knew it was my title track because I feel like it ties together all the themes that I was going for, of just coming through an experience and realizing, like, at a certain point you come home to yourself and you accept the things you can't control, and you own your experience. And the music video that was made for it is I'm just so touched by it. Michael Longstaff did the video for that. We filmed all over Southern Arizona. I hope people will watch it. But it's it's kind of like got a country feel, kind of a ballad with a beautiful instrumental in the middle that features pedal steel and 3-part strings and piano. And it's just it's got this, I think, a healing quality to it. And it's kind of got a sense of hope that I hope people feel when they hear it. Yeah, what can I say about it?
Thank you for listening to Arizona Spotlight. This show is a production of AZPM. The production engineer is Jem Blackwood. The assistant producer is Sophia Hammer. I'm producer and host Mark McLemore.
AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.